Okay, hello everyone. Just like to welcome you here to another weekly winter webinar. Really excited to have you on the line. We've got a small-ish group here, but I know there's others coming. And I know I've given my opening spiel a few times, so I thought I might as well dive in. I think everyone on the line has been to this webinar before, so I'll fly through the opening quickly and then introduce our presenter for the day here. So really excited to have on the line Sana van der Ros, presenting students as stewards today. And today, just as a reminder, everyone's on mute, but you can enter questions in the chat question box. I'll see these and we can respond to them later. And we'll take time at the end for questions. After the webinar, as you know, you'll receive a very short survey, and yeah, it's been great getting the feedback so far. Some good constructive feedback, ideas for future webinars, and some positive things to send along to our presenters too. And I think presenting a webinar is one of the most challenging ways of presenting because you don't get the immediate audience feedback, and so great to be able to send that on to our presenters after the fact. So as you know, this is the fourth in a series of 6 webinars we're offering as a pilot series this winter. Next week's is on environmental inquiry learning, and then we've got one, Growing Greens by Ali Candy, after that, on ecological literacy through food production. So very excited to have that happening. And that's part of our bigger series in 2016 of professional development workshops and resources. I did, and I believe a few of you are joining us at the Inquiry Institute. I sent out an email to all our members last week. As of today, we're officially full. All spots that see being purchased are now full, and it's going to be an awesome Pro-D event. And we'll release registration, it looks like, by next week for our spring celebration and workshops. And our leadership clinic is coming up soon, and we've got our leadership teams in place, made up of a team from every school district in the Columbia Basin, and we've met with several of those already, and several more next week. So excited to meet with them too. And then, of course, some of the ongoing goodness, the Pro-D bursary program. We've been getting lots of applications lately, as well as use of our new funding search engine, and lots of bookings being made for Wild Voices for Kids. So if you haven't booked your Wild Voices for Kids programs yet, we offer currently 2 complimentary programs a year, and then you can also, shortly we'll be able to allow you to book more and pay for those programs, so you can book as many as you like or need. So some warm-up questions. Came up with one with Sana specifically today, but the first one, and I'll type it in here too, but the first one is, what community do you live in? Just type it into the chat box, and if you can respond back in the question box where you're coming from today. And I should say I'm coming from Invermere today, and Sun is out in Jasper National Park. We've got Kimberley and Caslow and Sparwood, another Sparwood. We've got a density of participants from Sparwood today, and looking at the list, I think a couple other places too here. And so the second question, which is related to this presentation, how are you involved in environmental education, and what are you hoping to learn today to help your practice? So if you can take a few seconds there and respond as well, that would be great. And I think while you're responding, I should mention too, I don't think I did at the beginning, I'm terrible at that, but for those of you I haven't met, my name is Duncan Whittick, and I'm the Executive Director of the Columbia Basin Environmental Education Network. And also on the line today, Susie McDonald is here, and she's the Wild Voices for Kids Program Coordinator of Kimberley. So really excited to have her joining us as well. Just waiting for some responses to start rolling in, but take a few more seconds and think about them. So we've got a couple teachers here looking for some new ideas, looking for how they can better connect their students to the local environment. I think one of the things I'm excited about as well, and we've been working with school district teams on it, is just the great ways of connecting stewardship to new curriculum and just getting kids outside and incorporating that as part of the plan. We've also got somebody who's involved in the community garden and engaging students in programming with intergenerational slant as well. So a few different angles on it. Some teachers, some more community educators. So without further ado, and feel free to, if you want to keep chiming in there, but very pleased today to, like I said, welcome to our webinar series, Sanne van der Ros, looking at the question of how can you engage your students to become active environmental stewards. Sanne is from Golden and is a teacher, outdoor and environmental educator, and a CBEAN board member, among many other roles in outdoor and environmental education. She is currently the Parks Canada Public Outreach Education Officer at the Palisades Stewardship Education Centre. It's an amazing place in Jasper National Park. And Sanne develops and delivers outdoor and experiential education programs designed for junior and high school students. And while hiking, canoeing, kayaking, skiing, snowshoeing, and exploring, the programs that she does aim to connect students with the natural world while allowing them to discover their cultural heritage, inspire them to embrace the stewardship ethic necessary to preserve and protect areas such as parks and heritage sites. So yeah, without further ado, I will turn the screen and the mic over to Sanne, and yeah, welcome to you.
Thank you, Duncan. Thanks for that nice introduction. I appreciate everyone who's joining in, and I look forward to hearing a little bit more about some of the projects you're working on near the end of the presentation. But let's start the slideshow at the beginning, right here. So let's see if we can get that working. And there we are. So I'm just going to move this over there. Students as stewards. Sounds like some of you have already got your hands involved in some projects. That's really great to hear. We're talking today about how to engage your students to become active environmental stewards. So here is our action plan for today. The what, the so what, the how, and get to it. So in terms of the what, we'll look a little bit about stewardship. I'm sure most of you are all familiar with it as well. And some of the inspiration, I think that's really important to look back at some of our inspiration that motivates us, and then for motivating our students as well. I'll share some stories from the field, from where I work at the Palisades Center and a few other places. And then let's talk a little bit about the role of the educator, a few tips and suggestions on how to get to it and get students out there actively engaged. And then finally, I hope that we're going to have a chance to tackle some challenges and create those into opportunities together. We can brainstorm some solutions if there's any hurdles that you have encountered or that you anticipate encountering. And then it's go time. So we'll start off with stewardship. So I've got a couple of definitions to kind of wrap our mind around the topic. It's a pretty big topic. So the activity of or job of protecting and being responsible for something. And this is something we ask our students here when we're talking about stewardship, is we ask them to define it and what they think. And often these keywords that I've highlighted are the ones that they come up with. And so something about protecting something, being responsible for something, to care for something, and something maybe that's entrusted in your care. And so it could be not necessarily related to environment. And I hear also you're working, one of you is working with intergenerational projects, so that can relate in that way as well. So in the last one, overseeing the protection is something that's worth caring for, something worth preserving. So in that context, let's talk a little bit about our inspiration for stewardship. I have a quote I'd like to share with you of a Hopi elder, and that goes like this. You have been telling the people that it is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that it is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. And do not look outside yourself for the leader. Then he clasped his hands together, smiled, and said, this could be a good time. The quote continues on a little bit more, but that's the part I wanted to share with you as some of my inspiration. Of course, there's some others that are early inspirational people that started a lot of the environmental movement, the connection to the land, such as Aldo Leopold with his document, The Sand Country Almanac, where he's describing the understanding of his natural world and the human relationship to that natural world that he's discovered throughout his lifetime. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Garrett Hardin's The Tragedy of the Commons, but that's an interesting document that explores the concept of stewardship as he looks at ways that the Earth's natural resources are used. He remarks that typically individual users act independently and rationally according to their own self-interest, which is often contrary to the common good of all users by depleting that resource. And that I can see a big relationship to what we're working on with stewardship. And then finally, Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And when we talk with our students in our stewardship program, we do bring up a lot of examples and inspirations from over the years, and also some examples of stewardship activities that go on all around the world. And we've actually put it in a timeline. We have an activity where students are asked to, they'll have one quote and one event, and then they're asked to organize themselves in order to of time, and then share all the different events that go on that lead up to where we are today. So from that, I'd like you to take just a minute here to think about your time when you were involved in an environmental stewardship project. Maybe this may be something that you experienced when you're very young, as in a child in your family. Maybe this was a little bit later in elementary school, or maybe this was as an adult getting involved in a project. And for me, it was growing up, for sure. It was a big influence. My mother had a big influence, taking me outside and having a connection to the land and looking after it. But an organized one that I can remember, my earliest memory is tree planting with my elementary school class in the Netherlands. And it felt really great. I still remember being part of that project, and I felt like I was part of a legacy. And still, when I go back to that forest where I planted those trees with my classmates, I go back and I have this feeling of satisfaction and contribution that I made a difference. And that's something that I hope that we have, we create with our students as well, to have that feeling of satisfaction that they're part of a bigger thing, that they're contributing to, and that they feel good about, that they make a difference. So if you tuned in last week at Monica's webinar about learning in the 21st century and the new curriculum in BC, there's a couple of things that I can see links to towards stewardship, so that's why I believe you're also here to share this about this. So in the Learning in the 21st Century, There's a lot of things that we're trying to do, we're working on, getting students involved that relates to stewardship as a discovery, experiential learning, to get their hands on and get outside and become lifelong learners. So a project, something like this, would create change behavior, hopefully, that would last a lifetime. Student-centered and inquiry-based learning to get students more engaged, as well as feeling that connection to place and to the community. The BC curriculum model, it talks about having this connection to understanding a certain topic, really knowing it and doing something about it and getting into action. So the stewardship is definitely a strong connection there. We're talking about the core competencies that Monica mentioned. In the thinking category, there's critical thinking, so that would relate to when students would think of something that's not right, that they want to look after and care about and make a difference for, as in a stewardship project. They can come up with some creative ideas on how to solve these problems. In terms of communication, competency, they have to work together, not only as students, but also with community members, perhaps to get their projects on the ground happening, with teachers, parents, anybody that's involved, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. Personal social competencies, there's the cultural personal identity, the personal social awareness, and responsibility. So those are all strong connections. Why we want to do this? So we want to see them develop a connection to the natural world, active connection to places that are local and to people that are in their community, either in the school or in your towns or in your area, and explore a meaningful issue that is hands-on in a real-world way. So something that's really tangible that they can connect with. And lastly, to transform knowledge and understanding into changing behaviors and action. That's really the ultimate goal as an educator, is to help students learn and discover and start to care about something, and then see these change behaviors and work into actions. So here at the Palisades Stewardship Education Center, we host students from across, mostly Alberta. We've hosted students from across Canada as well, more on a sporadic basis. But this is one of our guiding focuses here, is where Canadian youth shall share a passion and appreciation for Canada's national parks and national historic sites. Through personal connection, they will develop a sense of place and belonging. Youth will move beyond participation towards active ambassadorship. So that's all the programs that we run here for the students. Connect to this, to our guides here, guidelines. We get students outside, connecting to the natural world, and our programs are all about connecting to the place and to see what they can do beyond that experience. So we have a credit course that we offer here. It's a 4-day intensive program. There's programming from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. throughout the day and evening with various staff covering the programs. They're getting 3 credits for this. So this is an example I want to share with you as one of the main examples. But I will cover some others as well later on. So the students are asked to do a pre-immersion project beforehand, to have some homework to do. They'll get credits for it. They're asked to delve into the topic of stewardship and really get a bit of an understanding before they come to the Palisades Center. And then they have their immersion time here with us for 4 days and evenings. And then afterwards, in the post-immersion time, is where they're asked to take on their own projects, their own stewardship projects. And we guide them through how to do that. And then the teacher that brings the classes here also does the follow-up with them. So I'll share you a little bit about that. Here's some examples of the journals that we use. I think journaling is a really great way to keep track of what they're learning, also to record their thoughts and feelings as well, and during their reflection times. And here you can see on the right side in the journals the 3 different credits that they get for this course. So here's a couple of pictures to show you of some of the immersion programs that we do to help students connect to the place and to start learning about stewardship. So this is an activity here where students are asked to, in groups, to go find these puzzle pieces that we hide in the woods a little bit, like a scavenger hunt. They come back together, piece it all together, and they're all about different local, regional, provincial, and national and international stewardship organizations, such as Jasper National Park, Friends of Jasper, but also the World Wildlife Fund, and a few different organizations within that scope. And then we discuss a little bit of what these organizations stand for and how they do it, so that they get a bit of an example on a larger scale. And then we bring it back to our own experiences here and break it down into small projects that we can tackle. We get them to connect with the land through land art, and they get a chance to create and then destroy as well, and to show that this land art form is more an ephemeral way of connecting with the land. We take them biking and hiking and canoeing to have them enjoy the place and appreciate it, but we also stop along the way and do mini lessons, let's say, to have them to create an understanding and awareness of, for example, the human impact on the environment that we're traveling through. We do some outdoor games, have some fun, and mix it up. And we also we have living art gallery where they take a turn sharing about some of the images that they're being presented with have human impacts on the land, and have a chance to reflect about those. We have them take some time by themselves. I think reflection is a very important piece to processing their experiences and their thoughts, and to solidify what they've done as well. This is a page out of their journal that I'm sharing with you here that guides them through some steps that they would take for an action project that they'll take on after they leave and go back to their communities and take on their stewardship projects. So on the right here you can see that circle, and the center says investigate. So there's some phases of investigating an issue, a topic they want to do something about, and then they'll plan it out, they'll create the program, the project, and then they'll evaluate it. So when we do these smaller projects here on site while they're here, we use that model, and that becomes familiar to them, that then hopefully will be used by them when they go out on their own. So this is what it looks like in larger letters, so you can follow along. So the first step in their action planning for a stewardship project would be to investigate. So really looking at what is a problem. And when they're on site here, we'll present them with a problem, and we'll brainstorm ideas on how you can solve this problem and different choices that we'll have to make about that. And then we'll talk about what do we want to achieve in the end. If we've decided what we want to do about this, how do we want to see a difference in the end? So we really plan about this, including a timeline about when we want to get this done and what are the realistic goals for this. And then in our plan, we talk a little bit about the terminology, what the different things mean. If they have to learn something about a new topic, like a different plant that's an invasive plant we want to take out of the landscape, the tools that we're going to use, and some of the processes of the type of work we're going to be doing. And we're going to look for resources of things and people that we need for making this project happen. Then we're looking at the safety as well, safety and health standards, to keep those in mind. That's always important, of course. And then at the end, we need to know how we're going to feel successful, that this project was successful, or if we meet our objectives. So this is something that we do. So here's one project that we come up with the students that we guide them through and then take on. So here you can see a picture of a bear, and you can see a picture of a buffalo berry bush. And so we asked them what could be the problem here, and we talk about some of the issues. And so then together we guide them through a plan to create an action plan. And so it's not always the same for each class, but basically we introduce the topic that the berries are attracted for bears, and if we have these bears come into areas that where there's a lot of humans, then it could be a possible safety issue. So what can we do about this if these bushes are growing in picnic areas or near the communities where people live, or in campgrounds, picnic areas and trails and so forth. And so then the students get to brainstorm of what options there are to reduce the risk of this human-wildlife encounter. So then students come up sometimes with a whole range of ideas, as you probably can imagine, some that are completely unable or impossible to do, or very large in scale. So then they will take a little bit of coaching through and to see if they're manageable and if they're doable goals. And then the solution generally for us will be to remove the female bushes of the buffalo berry plants in different areas. And then for the plan, they would be looking then at taking the buffalo berries out of the landscape at the Palisades Center. Here we do this to make it less attractive for bears and less chance for a bear encounter on site. So we also need to look at the consequences of success. If we do create this project and it works out really well, that there could also be unintended results that we could anticipate, such as that maybe other plants will grow instead of these plants, and what might they be? Maybe will they be more or less attractive for bears? So there's something monitoring that could be taking place afterwards. So some of the things in terms of deliverables, we will create a map of where the berries are growing. We can create a map of where the human uses are, where is it most dense human use area, so we can map that all out, and then create a work strategy from there and who is doing what, and then get out there and do it. Get removal of these bushes, for example. Their students will have to learn how to identify the bushes, as well as the areas that will be the problem area, and then have high and medium and low priority areas. You would then flag the plants and remove them by clipping them. You would take photographs, of course, for your reports, and then keep track of how many you've removed in terms of for your data collection as well. So then what we do to remove the plants is we burn it. So we collect and stack and burn the bushes in our fire pit, and then we map again afterwards the area that has been clipped and taken care of for future purposes. In terms of terminology and tools and processes, we would look at what hand tools need to be used, resources, who are the people that we need to have to help with this, such as a wildlife conflict specialist that would maybe be involved about, you need to ask them for permits or any advice that we need. Some of the stuff we need is some pictures of the bushes so that it can be identified. Maps, clippers, gloves, eyewear, bear spray, those kind of things, clipboards, flagging tape, cameras, a whole bunch of different things that you would need to bring so that you can put that plan together. And then at the end, what is your measure of success, and how will you define that? And will it be quantitative or qualitative? And so then you can look back and see if your project was successful. So that is just one example. The projects we do, here's a picture of the students taking down not the buffalo berry bushes, but these are other bushes that we have on our property that are invasive plants that were planted in the past by a dude ranch owner that wanted some nice decorative hedges along the roads, and now they're taking over the forests. And so students get quite passionate when you involve them in the whole planning process, and they feel like it's their project, and they're really taking it on with heart. It's really impressive to always see this. Here they are burning the bushes. Another project they were involved with is local students. They were building a loon nesting platform. That's a floating platform because the loons were trying to nest on the shores of a busy area around Jasper Park Lodge, and it was unsuccessful many years in a row, so the platform seemed to be a safer bet for loons for nesting. So this is a project that we got the local students involved with when they came for their stewardship course. And as you see on the bottom right, they'll write their names on it, and they feel real ownership about this, for this project, and an invested interest in these loons and how they do, and have that special connection with the natural world in their local area. And there they are paddling out their platform to then lower the anchor later down in the lake, in Lake Lac Beauvert. Another project students are involved with often here is creating sightlines on our local trails, and we have the local trail alliance help out with some of the equipment that they provide for us. Some of it we have it on site here as well, as there's clippers, and so we teach the students how to create sightlines so that there's more safety on the trail. You can not have a surprise animal right on the side of the trail, but also you can anticipate traffic as well. So it's a safety for humans and wildlife to get in the same time. And so we go through that same step, the same process each time with them when we do a project. So when they go on their own at home, back at school, and they're asked to do their immersion projects, then they take on different projects. So there have been students that did community gardens at the middle school. So they went to middle school, created a connection there with the local teacher there, and got involved helping create a community garden and get their hands in the dirt. Long-term care assistance, there was a couple students that got involved with that in their community, which is really exciting, and they ended up afterwards continuing for quite a few months after they're expected to do this project, and so they felt really a connection there that they wanted to continue with, and so that's great. Lots of students also want to do fundraising and put their money towards a cause, like sending a student on a stewardship course because it costs money, or there was an example of a snow leopard being adopted and given to one of the teachers as their way to spend their funds that they raised. There was somebody who had a connection with fisheries biologists, and they helped with stocking of fish. And there was a junior forest ranger, and they were able to help with some tree planting. Lots of the students in different communities that get involved with the garbage cleanup, and it's really neat, the teacher says, to see later how these students take on a leadership role in their community. When the kids at their school throw away garbage on the street or on the sidewalk or on their playground, they'll tell them, come on, pick it up, that doesn't go there, right? And so they really take a leadership role there, which is great. You can see other examples, clothing swap that students have taken on, and then the extra clothes actually are donated away, and trail maintenance. So usually when the students take those projects on and they're very excited about it, it's very good to have it be a student-directed project. Here's an example of a project that I did in the Columbia Basin when I lived in Golden, where it's students getting outside in the community, making a difference after they've learned about where their water comes from. It's called Know Your Watershed. It's a Columbia Basin Trust program delivered by Wildside educators. And this was a grade 8 program, and the way I managed to make it work is because not all the grade 8s were able to participate in this project. And I involved the grade 3s in our community who have more willing parents to come along, and so I had more support this way to get out on the streets and paint our storm drains, and the students came up with a faucet symbol because our water in Golden comes from our aquifers, and so the water draining into it, our storm drains go straight into our groundwater. So that was their way to get involved, and then they can see on the streets when they're walking down the streets in their community that that's what their contribution is to our community, which is great. A Shoreline Cleanup is an organization that maybe you're familiar with, that you can sign up with and organize in your own community, where you're asked to collect garbage and keep track of all the amounts of garbage, and then students get to record it, but in the same time they're outside and connecting. This is a picture I took of a cleanup where a student connected with a snail, and they feel a connection to the local place that they've cleaned up afterwards. So how to engage the students in stewardship? There's lots of ways, of course, but being a role model and getting in there yourself, I think, is a really important thing. To keeping it small and start simple and build from there. It's really easy to start small, but it's hard. But if you start big, then it's hard. You have lots of more hurdles to cross. Creating connections the local community, with places near the schools. I think this is really important for so that they care about these places. Give them guidance and support, because they do need that. It is really hard for students to just come up with these things on their own. So really helping them out and getting connections for them and following up with them. And then at the end also celebrate what they've done and really have them feel proud of something that they've gotten involved in and made a difference for. So a couple of steps to kind of break it down really simple is make sure that we know at the beginning the responsibilities of who looks after what, make sure that the insurance is in place, that the paperwork for field trips are in place, who is doing what, and who is responsible for what. So that's really important. And then for orientation is to make sure the students know exactly what they're doing, who's doing, how you're doing your job safely, and what the objectives are. And then making it fun is really important. A typical success is about a 2-hour time frame, and much shorter it's really hard to get anything done that's substantial enough, and anything longer it becomes more a tedious task. So 2 hours is a sweet spot. You can include it in a field trip and have some fun along the way, and one of the ways you can do that is having a contest of how much somebody can, the amount of work that can be done. Or an example was for an invasive weed pool, that somebody who can pick the biggest root ball, and that can become a contest and have some fun with that. It's definitely a collaborative approach. Oops, I gotta put this back here, sorry. Collaborative approach between a lot of different people to make a project work. Besides the students and the teachers, of course, the parents would be supportive of getting the students involved, support staff, administrators, of course, need to be on board. And the important thing is to tap into community organizations and see where they can help out, because they often are very willing to help out. So it's important to reach out to them, nonprofits as well, local businesses, and local governments. So even your town community, town council could be of support. So if there's any time left, I would love to turn it over to you and see what kind of projects you're working on, if there's any hurdles that we can together work out. So I'm not sure if Duncan is able to unmute you, or maybe you can type in your question or your hurdle in the chat box, or maybe you've got something to share that we can all learn from. That would be great.
Sure. Yeah, and thanks so much, Sana. We'll maybe let folks, if they have a question, type it in, and if they'd like to be unmuted, and just let me know in the chat box as well there. Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, well, your expertise is a resource, but also, I mean, the place you're working at right now is such a huge, amazing resource as well. I had one quick question for you.
Yeah.
And apologies if you covered it, I didn't hear it, but so students who want to come out to the Palisades, students across the Columbia Basin, is it a resource that can be used for students and teachers out here?
Yeah, certainly. We host students and teachers from all across the country. The credit course that we do offer is, the credits won't be valid in British Columbia, but it's not the only reason people come here, of course. And so, yeah, we've had students from the Vancouver last fall come out to the Palisades, and we've had students from other places in BC. We've had in the past students from Ottawa and beyond as well,
Awesome.
from the international community. So
Yeah.
it's definitely available. We do cater specific programs for specific needs, so we can do that as well. So there's a website and a contact for getting that set up, and I can help, of course, with that.
Cool. Yeah, and I did send out during your presentation just the link to the Palisades Center. But yeah, you'd be willing to receive some questions about that, or?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming through right now, so yeah, unless they come through in the next minute or so, maybe what we'll do is kind of leave any a final word to you, and then let people go on. It seems like that 45-minute mark is a pretty sweet one. That's what we're hearing in our feedback. So that's yeah, just awesome that you're able to take the time today to share that. I wish we could all be transported to where you are right now and actually go out there on a field trip because I know it's amazing out there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I hope that the examples that I use and the strategies for making a project work can be applied in all of your communities. And here's a couple more resources I thought I'd share with you as well. There's, of course, loads of resources out there. But here's the BC Green Games that you may have heard of. There's a deadline coming up very shortly, but there's an opportunity to win some money for your school, to promote your any projects that you've been doing and working on. And this is something you can also keep in mind if you are doing a project for the next year, because it's an annual event, and to record it and put it into a little video to post onto the BC Green Games. Yeah, you can ask Susie McDonald about it, as she has experience in that, I believe. Stewards of the Future, it's a great teacher resource, learning for stewardship and sustainability learning in BC. So you can go on to this link here and check that out. It'll be a useful resource, I think, for you. And the Stewardship Center for British Columbia has also lots of great resources that you can peruse and maybe tap into for your projects. So yeah, I hope that helps you. Should I pop these up? Let's see, here's an example of the stewardship or the toolkit here. So we've got 85 pages. Give you some idea of what this document is about. Back to here. The Stewardship Center for British Columbia.
Yeah, that's a great one.
So yeah, so this, you can browse this resource center. It's got lots of stuff in there. And if this doesn't pop up quick enough, but yeah, this is going to give you a great resource. And of course, on our own website, we have lots of resources as well, teaching resources as well as grant opportunities if you're looking for some funding to get some tools for your students to do some of these projects.
I was actually going to say too, I think links to all three of those websites that you just gave are under our teaching resources page as well. So that we've got links to those three there. And I think also through this oh shoot, the Lieutenant Governor's program. Oh, nice. They've also got funding available for teachers in high school, so secondary school. There is funding available there too. So yeah.
Great. Well, I hope you have fun with your students as stewards, and I wish you good luck, and I hope to hear all about it. And thank you for taking the time to join me here, and I hope it was worth your time.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Sana. And yeah, for those of you who are interested, we're back again, same time, different place next week. And we'll be talking about inquiry learning as a lead up to the Inquiry Institute in Nelson in April. So yeah, I hope you can all join us and have a wonderful end of your week and a great weekend. Get outside and enjoy. Thanks so much.
Great. Okay.
Okay, see you later.
Bye.